Within the past few years, One Piece has become one of the biggest anime in the world, and it feels like the world is finally catching up to what a lot of us have already known, honestly, and I'll be honest, it feels pretty good. I'm happy that a lot of people are finally giving one of the greatest stories told in our modern era a try, despite the rather intimidating length, I'll be honest with that. But along with this new popularity comes millions of new fans, and what that also means there's more room for people to come in with their own perceptions of the story. And honestly, there's nothing inherently wrong with that, but one thing that I have seen in my own little corner of the internet is the idea that One Piece is not political. And it's like, you mean the story with themes of slavery, a tyrannical world government using military force to oppress the poor, and the nuances of pirates and authority who each have their own sense and versions of justice is being called not political? And it's like, why do you ask? They're saying it's not political? It's because it's about a rubber pirate searching for treasure. And it's like, so the mode and the vehicle with which the story is presented to you discounts the themes of the story, which is crazy to me. So I will say, with the preamble out of the way, with today's video, I have the hope of convincing you or reaffirming your belief in the political nature of One Piece. So with that all out the way, thank you so much for watching. And if you enjoy, you know what to do. So let's just get into it, bro. A lot of people like to say One Piece doesn't really pick up its political themes until we're a ways into the story. I've heard some say it doesn't really start until around the Alabasta arc, or honestly, until the Arlong Park arc. And I personally believe One Piece, from its very first arc where Luffy and Kobe make it to Shell's Town and rescue Zoro, is where the political themes of One Piece kicks in. I mean, think about it. Axe-Hand Morgan, a man in a position of power, abusing it to not only terrorize a town of innocent people, but also wrongfully imprisoning Zoro and sentencing him to death. And Luffy's first order of business in Shell's Town was to free Zoro, going against the established authority that empowered Morgan to do the things that he'd been doing in that town. And this was our first glimpse of Luffy's refusal to listen to authority if he felt it was oppressing others. And it's not like that stops with the Marines either. Luffy follows his own sense of justice in a way, and we have seen this time and time again throughout the story. From the very beginning, this was Oda telling us that the people who are charged to protect us can also be the ones to use that power to oppress us. Power that we at one point or another may have given them. I know people like to make the joke that Oda follows a formulaic map when it comes to One Piece arcs. You know, the Straw Hats arrive on an island and have to save it, among other things, you know, the princess and all that kind of thing, you know, things like that. To some degree, I will say I do agree with you, but this is looking at the story from a very face value perspective. It's not just about freeing the island, it's about representing the different types of tyrannical rulers that may be out there and the different ways that they can use those powers to rule. So the Arlong Park arc saw Nami having to betray the people with whom she had been traveling to save her village. Arlong is a fishman who had known nothing but oppression his entire life, found his own corner of the world to push his own version of oppression onto people based on race. Arlong hated humans, and he used his presence and strength to strike fear into the people of Kokoyashi village. Not only that, but they were also using a child, Nami, with hopes that one day her cartography skills would lead him to conquer the seas. If you don't know what cartography is, it's map making. You probably do if you've seen One Piece. I don't know why I put that in there. But this is a subversion of the idea that oppression can come from proper authorities or even from people who have privilege. I mean, Arlong grew up poor on Fishman Island, but his hatred for humans, which I will admit somewhat justified if I'm being honest, but this doesn't justify his treatment of Nami and the village, because they themselves had done nothing wrong to Arlong. Just because you experienced racism or oppression at the hands of a few bad people in a certain group does not mean that you're allowed to take that out on everyone else. Now, from the perspective of being a black man in America, this really resonated to me as a teenager, because this is when I started watching One Piece. I'm 24 now. My God, I just turned 24 a week ago. That's crazy to me. But you can be aware of the things that you may face in life based on the way that you look, but you don't let it define you or prevent you from becoming who you are. And you especially don't let it corrupt you to the point that you push it onto other people and harm them, right? So with my own 2 cents out of the way, let's move on to one of my favorite arcs in all of One Piece, Enies Lobby. And I know I'm skipping over some really important arcs here, like Alabasta, which is a very politically charged arc, but I want to speak about the ones that not only resonated with me the most, not to say that Alabasta didn't, but the ones I feel are truly undeniably political. So Enies Lobby sees the demon child Nico Robin, that's what the government named her, charged with the crime of living with knowledge, but mainly just living. Her surviving the what's it called again? The Buster call on O'Hara, the O'Hara Buster call, right? So Spandam, or Spandam, however you say it, through the power of CP9 has captured her and is seeking to not only kill Robin, but to use her death as a way to gain power within the ranks of the Marines. And Spandam, he represents people who use the power of rank to oppress people. Now, this may be similar to how Axehand Morgan went about it, but at least with Morgan, he would fight his own battles, whereas Spandam himself was a weak excuse for Marine, and used the power hierarchy to have other more powerful people do his bidding. His whole idea behind having the gumption to do these things was because he knew that going against him, especially at Enies Lobby, meant declaring war on the world government itself, which, you know, had never been heard of before. But this is exactly what Luffy does. He orders Sniper King, or Soja King, Usopp, to shoot down the world government flag. And this is his first real big move against the world government. But this wasn't some grandiose plan of Luffy plotting to take down the world government. No, it was a simple fact that one of his friends was being told that her being alive was wrong, and that was enough for him. Looking at this at face value, sure, you can say Luffy only did this because it was one of his friends and he only cares about his crew, but this is symbolic of the fact that if something or someone you believe in is being wrongfully taken away from you, again, by a power that you supposedly put in power, you have the obligation to stand up to them. Before someone says, you know, this isn't true, think about this. There would literally be no America if not for the people during the Boston Tea Party doing this exact same thing. Again, think of the Boston Tea Party. Look at that at face value and say that was only about throwing tea into a river. So I want to take some time to move away from the Straw Hats so that we can explore the bigger One Piece world at large, because it is its own vibrant, living world, and this is the thing that Oda does that I love. But I want to explore the political influences of the One Piece world outside of the Straw Hats. So first off, I do want to discuss the black market that was introduced to us in Dressrosa with Doflamingo, who himself is another version of an oppressor who was wronged and took it out on others. But, you know, staying on topic, this black market served the express purpose of trading goods and engaging in human trafficking. We see on Elbaf how Mother Carmel, who has this innocent image of an altruistic woman who has her own orphanage who is taking in kids, but we find out this is with the singular purpose of finding powerful kids so that she can sell them to the world government for them to become weapons of the world government, right? And we can also look at Big News Morgans, who's also a very big name in this black market underground world of One Piece, is someone who uses the news for power. He literally uses it for commerce. He decides how the story will be told, whether it is of his own volition or the world government lining his pockets, convincing him to tell it how they themselves see it. Essentially, whoever controls the news controls the world, and you can change the perspective of how people or events are viewed based on how it's told within the news, right? We see this in our own world almost every single day, right? So the entire tragedy of God Valley was swept under the rug because of Morgans. People were slaughtered by the Celestial Dragons. Families on God Valley were slaughtered because of the Celestial Dragons, which was also aided by the Marines, which is an arm of the world government, right? And the only thing to come out of this was the story of Garp the hero, which Garp himself hated, I will admit, and the villainization of Rox D. Zebek. And it's not like this is an isolated event either. The world government tells a story to the public at large how they themselves see it. They paint pirates as these villains that do nothing but harm the world, and while, yes, this does carry some truth, it's more so for them to point the finger away from themselves about the crimes that they themselves are doing. Now, since we're on the topic of the world government's involvement in crimes, I know that we've been doing that all day, this whole entire video, but one man I truly want to speak about is Monkey D. Dragon, a man that I will be making a character analysis video on in the very near future, so keep an eye out for that. But Dragon is the leader of the Revolutionary Army who adopted the singular goal of taking down the world government and the Celestial Dragons. To do this, he uses espionage and disruption tactics to disable the Celestial Dragons, which directly, not indirectly, it directly affects the world government. These are moves taken directly from the art of war, which, if that's not political enough for you, if war itself isn't political enough for you, these operations he was disrupting aren't some peacekeeping agenda that the world government has, right? That they're going out and trying to find people who are, you know, down bad or whatever and trying to help them and inviting them to come join the world government, because there are not cities, there's countries in One Piece that aren't affiliated with the world government, and they are very much punished for not being affiliated with the world government, right? So what the world government is doing is going out and taking food from people who already don't have enough for themselves to feed people who already have more than enough. And if for some reason you aren't catching up on what I'm putting down for you, what's being said here in the story, it's representative of the upper class, like billionaires and millionaires out there who already have this lump sum of money, who just want to take more from hardworking people to satiate that never-ending appetite that they have developed for money. But in the terms of the Celestial Dragon, it's food or whatever else they want. Sometimes it's money. I don't even think money's a concept to the Celestial Dragons. It's just, I want it now, get it to me now. So I just want to say with this video, all art is inherently political, and its true value comes in what it says about the time period that it's in. Some of the greatest pieces of media were born from the way the author or the artist sees the world. And reading or watching One Piece without acknowledging its political nature means that you might have been sheltered and unaware of the world, which honestly is no fault of your own. I myself grew up pretty sheltered. But after a while, it becomes your own responsibility to educate yourself. Or if you still refuse after knowing all of this, you may be a part of that group of people who are oppressing the others, if we're being honest here. And it's crazy to me because the flag of the Straw Hats in our own real world has become a symbol to stand against tyranny. The flag itself has become such a political symbol of resistance for some that there are countries out there, namely Indonesia, I'm pretty sure Nepal, and some other countries out there, that their governments, whenever that flag is being flown, it's a sign of terrorism to them. It's the people standing up to them for that tyranny, for them not representing them, for them not doing the things that they, the people, want. They're doing what the minority wants and ignoring the people at large, right? So with that all out the way, I do hope I have somewhat changed your mind or convinced you of the idea that One Piece does have at least some political themes if you don't think the entire story is political, because the entire story of One Piece is political. It's a giant political story that's being told through the medium of this silly rubber boy who's going out there who wants to become the Pirate King, who now has Toon Force and has a swordsman and a cook who kicks on his crew and a reindeer and a long-nosed man and a girl who can control the weather and I'm not going to name the entire crew. But anyway, that's the video. Oh my god, that's the video. And as usual, if you made it this far, I just want to say thank you so much. You guys have been, again, supporting the videos, and I really love it. I really appreciate it. This week I'm really trying to go hard on content because I'm off from school for the week and I do have some work to do, but you know, I'm just trying to get these out, trying to support this dream. Can I get these out as much as I can, right? And I really hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please consider leaving a like, a subscribe, and leave any opinions on what you guys think I can do better. And, you know, just rip me apart and tell me how much I sucked in this video if that's what you want to do. But I love you guys. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.